Today is February the 13th, 2007, and I'm going to be visiting with Warren Taylor, and he is going to be sharing with me some of his experiences in World War II. Now, Warren, I want to ask you to give me your full name.
Warren Taylor. Warren G. Taylor.
Oh.
I used to go by as Warren Taylor.
Okay. What's the G stand for?
I don't know. I just quit using it.
Okay.
I was born in 1921. Evidently, I was named after Harding, I suppose.
Okay.
But I just
Okay. Now tell me when your birthday is.
10/29/21.
Okay, you were born in 1921.
Right.
Where were you born?
I'm born right here in Van Buren.
Here in Van Buren proper.
Yes.
Were you a
Right.
city boy?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Did you go to school here in Van Buren?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Did you graduate from high school here?
Yes.
What high school did you, well, it was only one high school, so,
Right.
okay. Now, what was your dad's name?
My dad's name was Alan Taylor. He left my mother, and there were 7 children. He left my mother when we were most all young, and so I never had a father.
Okay. All right, Warren, that's very interesting. What was your mom's name?
Millie M. Taylor.
Millie M. Taylor.
But you know, I didn't have a father. We didn't have one, but most of that was during the Depression era also. But as far as not having a father, it had no effect on me at all.
Okay, but what's interesting to me is that your mother with 7 children, and
That's
she
right.
still was able to let you graduate from high school.
That's right.
Did all the children?
All of it, yes.
What did she do for a living?
She didn't. What she didn't work. All of the children maintained the household doing it.
Okay,
Of course,
you
now I
worked.
had one older brother that never finished.
Okay.
He-
What did you do as a young teenage boy?
Well, I worked at home. We had chickens and calves and cows, and we had just a hard time, you might say.
Okay.
And then I had a paper out.
Okay, you had a paper route.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, what year did you graduate high school?
1939.
1939. Okay. Did you go on from high school to college?
Yes, I went to Fort Smith Junior College.
Okay.
1 year.
1 year. All right. Now, Warren, about that time, we're hearing a little bit about Germany and about
right.
what's happening in Germany.
That's
Did
right.
you hear about that?
Yes, we did.
Okay.
We
Now, you're a
sure-
young boy.
Yeah. In fact, after that first year in junior college, the military draft was beginning to become in order.
Okay.
It was coming up. All of them my age, we sensed that, and it was doubtful whether we should even go back to school. It wouldn't be practical.
Okay.
I met a good friend in junior college named Johnny Stevenson.
Okay.
Fine. We had one topic. We had the same thing. We was interested in aerial activity, air warfare.
Okay.
and
Aerodynamics.
Yeah, aerial, about flying.
Yeah,
war,
about flying.
see.
Uh-huh.
And we both was interested in that. In fact, this is prior to being drafted, and we knew that was coming up. We wrote a letter to the U.S. Army Air Forces. We wanted to join. We never did hear from them then.
Okay.
That was during the early part of 1941.
Okay.
Of course, before that, we hadn't tried, but we saved. But anyway, early years of 1941, we wrote a letter to them, and that's when we didn't hear from them. But after Pearl Harbor, December the 7th, then we called them in January, and it was no time we heard from them. The military draft was really in order then.
Okay.
We was Well, we were really, in a few months or less, ready to go. So, we got a letter from them, said they'd be at Fort Chaffee,
Okay.
a mobile unit, the U.S. Army Air Force. You know, during the whole World War II, we had the Army, the Navy. We didn't have the U.S. Army Air Force was
Yes,
attached to the
yeah,
Army.
they were all almost
Yeah.
one thing.
And they didn't change that until after the war. Anyway, this mobile unit came to Chaffee, and he and I went out there. We took a test, we took a physical, and we got through. Told me I needed to fix a bridge here. Well, I was 19 years old, so I didn't need, never had anybody say you need to have that. He needs some of them something, you know. And then till we got through, he gave us a piece of paper and said, this, when you come back here, this piece of paper will tell us that you are in the U.S. Army Air Force.
Okay.
But do not try to write anymore. Just, we'll let you know. We'll send you a letter, you'll come here. Then we will send you to a flight school, see. Well, what we didn't realize then, we had no facilities here, you know. We didn't hear, that's after Pearl Harbor, we didn't hear. And we knew that the draft coming up, so I went to a draft board member here in town, said, I'm subject for the draft, but I told him the story, well, I don't think you can't do it. We won't release you, you know. And Johnny, he went to the one in Fort Smith where he lived, they told him the same thing, we don't, you know.
Okay.
So we had to do something. So what he did, one day he called him, got a number, and he said, Warren, he said, neighbor, from New Orleans, U.S. the naval, boy, they'll take, he said, take us both right now. Report down there at such and date, and we'll take you both, bring that paper
Piece of paper that you have.
and said, they'll take both of you. Well, I said, Johnny, I don't want to, I didn't want the Naval Air Force, see. Well, he said, it isn't either, but you know, we're going to be drafted. I said, that's right. So he come back a few days later and said, well, you going to make up your mind? I said, no, I don't believe. I said, you know, I never was that good a swimmer. Anyway,
You just didn't
I
really
didn't
want the
want-
Navy.
Well, you know what? He went on in, and then I was drafted probably a few weeks after that, September the 19th, 1942 is when I was drafted. So.
Okay, now let's go back just a little bit. When the first year that they talked about the draft, it was just that they encouraged you to join. That very first year, probably 1940.
Yes, yes.
Then in somewhere after Japan was bombed, then they instigated the draft, and you had to go.
Yes.
All the young men had to go. And when you went in, usually they told you where you were going. That you didn't really get much of a choice. But in this particular case, you went into the Army. You went down and went into the Army.
Right.
Okay, but let's go back again, though, until the bombing of Pearl Harbor. I want you to tell me where you were.
I was right here, and when that happened, I was over at Cooley Drug Store on 21st and Rogers, and I get my car washed across the street when we heard that about Pearl Harbor, see. And I knew then it wouldn't be long, see. I wasn't looking forward to it, but I wanted to go in the U.S. Army Air Force, see. But this draft would come up and interfere in that, which it did. I was unhappy about that, but most of them my age was in the process of being drafted.
Uh-huh.
Many of us would want to go.
Okay.
Many of them would want to join, but they didn't take many of them. All this time, we never heard from that mobile unit,
Uh-huh.
but we didn't understand then. This country ranked about 15th in the world in military. We were, third world countries were better than we were. We had a good Navy, that's all. But you know, was, it was really, the fact is we didn't know or didn't realize that this country had no facilities. They'd have taken us the day we went over there to check. They'd have taken us right there, but there's nowhere to see them.
They didn't have
We
any place to
wasn't
train
ready.
you.
We wasn't ready for it.
Mhm.
Right.
America really was not ready for
Oh
war.
no, they wasn't ready for war. Wasn't ready for us to go in. We wanted. They turned down lots of people because they had no facilities. See, to train you. See, they didn't have. And you know, when I was drafted, went down Little Rock. You know what? I was drafted into the U.S. Army Air Force. And I was fortunate there. See.
So you really got what you wanted anyway.
Yeah, I got in there, but I wanted to be a cadet, see, like Johnny said. He went to down to New Orleans, and that's where he went, see. And I could have gone, but I didn't choose to do that. I wanted to. So I was in the U.S. Army Air Force, see, and I wasn't. So U.S. Army Air Force was with the Army, but they were entirely different.
Mhm.
See,
They were not a unit all on its own.
No, they wasn't all. They were different. Like in the German Luftwaffe was there. The Wehrmacht was the Army, and they were completely separate.
Okay.
In fact, when I was first apprehended after I bailed out, well, the Luftwaffe was the only one that wanted me. The Army, they were there looking for me, but they needed the Luftwaffe before I was finally turned over.
Okay. All right, let's go back to where you were drafted. Did your buddy, let's talk about Johnny just a minute. Did he get to fly airplanes when he went into the Navy?
Oh yeah, I can tell you later on in the story what happened to him.
Okay, we'll go to that.
Yeah.
All right, now, we're talking about America and the feelings in America about 1941 after Japan had bombed.
Yeah.
We're going to war with Japan, and then Germany declares war on us almost immediately. So the whole country's in ready to go to war. Now, we tried to stay out of it, didn't we?
That's right. Too long, that's right. Oh yeah, most everybody went. Now I had an older brother that he was in the National Guard, and the 7th day of January he was in. He seemed to be in volunteer. He went to the Far East, you know. Anyway, most all of my age, they wanted to go in, but we didn't have any facilities.
Okay.
People go in. The young men, they were different than they are today. They're different. They all wanted to go. They
Wanted to serve their country.
They had patriotism, nationalistic pride. We all had that. We wasn't taught that. We just knew it.
Okay.
Most all the young men, entirely different than today. Well, everything's changed, but they were mostly like we were.
Okay. All right, now, Warren, when you went to Camp Robinson,
Yeah.
where did you go from Camp Robinson?
Well, I was inducted U.S. Army Air Force, and I went to Hammerfield, Fresno, California.
Okay.
That's where I went.
And you did your basic training there in
That's
Hammersfield?
right, yeah.
How long were you there?
I was there about, well, there were 2 different times. I was there first time maybe a couple, 3 months. Of course,
Okay.
that comes up in all this that I'm going to tell you about.
Okay, so you were there, where did you go from Hammersfield the first time?
Well, I went from there to Lowry Field, Denver, Colorado. See.
And what, were you going to a specialist school?
Well, yeah. See, back in, after we got out of basic training in Hammerfield, we had a choice. Now, you're in the U.S. Army Air Force. You go in mechanics that had to do with airplane engines, or you go radio, or you could go into armor. I went into armor. I chose machine guns and bombers and all that. And some of them even took the radio, used a radio, and then later on you wound up on the crew like it tell you in that resume. You're either tail gunner or a waist gunner on a bomber, or a top turret or a ball turret gunner. See, a radio man, he had a radio gun position, and mechanic, he had a top turret. A tail gunner, I was the armor, I was a tail gunner, and then they had waist gunners.
Okay, so you had 4 gunnery positions on your
All
airplane?
of it was a B-17. Of course, I'll tell you all about one, but B-17 was known as a flying fortress.
Okay.
We only had 2 big bombers of all the participants in the war. We did have 2 great airplanes, the B-24, which was a 4-engine twin tail boom bomber, 4-engine bomber, a great one. And then we had, it was known as the Liberator, and the B-17 was known as a flying fortress. I got a picture of what I've been there on, and it's it was a great
My husband was Air Force.
13. There was 13 this caliber machine guns.
Okay, so did you have to take a test to tell you, I mean, did you have to qualify to be a gunner? Did you have to take some sort of aptitude test?
Yes, ma'am. It's all in that when I tell you. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay.
That's the whole story there. I can tell you more of that when you get through here, and
okay.
I'll just tell you.
So now you're going to be training for the gunnery, and after you left Hammersfield.
Well, no, not at that time.
Oh, okay.
Listen, the Lowry Field was a great. It taught bomb shackles, bomb technique, machine guns, military techniques, and all about aerial warfare.
Okay.
It was a great, one of the great air bases at that time in the country.
Okay.
In Lowry, in Denver.
Okay. How long were you there?
Oh, I was just there probably a couple of months, maybe, or 3.
Okay. And where did you go from there?
Well, then I went to Hamilton Field in San Francisco.
Okay.
I stayed there.
Have you been assigned to a unit yet?
Oh no, not yet. We're still training. See. And then I went to. They said myself and 2 or 3 others. They sent up to Squaw Valley up in the Sequoia National Forest, and then to check on see if they had installed a gunnery unit up there, way up there in the mountains, and we were just up there for 2 or 3 weeks.
Okay. So all total, how long was your training?
Well, that's training. I couldn't put it together. I'd have to tell you, I'll tell you, I'd rather tell you, on this story here.
Okay, okay.
And I can tell you like it was in sequence.
Okay, okay.
And I'd rather do that.
Okay. All right. And then, so now you still haven't been assigned to a unit. When did you get assigned to a unit?
You've got to go through these training areas that I'll tell you about here.
Okay.
They're in sequence there, see, where it's a pretty good story. So,
okay.
I can remember that easily, just like it was, see, and it all comes together, see.
Okay. We'll take a break now for just a minute, Warren, and we're continuing our interview with Warren Taylor, and today is February the 13th, 2007, and he's just going to share with us a little bit about his life as a young man before he went into the service and as he goes into the service, okay?
Now, I graduated from high school, went to Fort Smith Junior College there, and that was in 1940 plus, see. And in school there, I met a good friend. We had the same thing in mind. His name was Johnny Stevenson.
Okay.
We had the same idea. We were attracted to aerial warfare. War fever was spreading. It was already going on in the Far East. We knew we'd be next. And we wanted to fly, wanted to be a cadet. Well, to make a long story short, we tried to contact the military to get in. We never heard from them. And later on, we didn't go back to school now, because the draft was in order and ready to go. We knew we'd be next. So, you know, when we got through school there, we got to talk about what we're going to do. We better get out of that draft. So Pearl Harbor happened, and when that happened, that really opened the book. That really changed things. So we wrote to the proper authorities on the U.S. Army Air Force, and in 2-3 months, we got a letter from them. They was out of Fort Chaffee, first come out there. We went out there. We took a mental examination. You had to pass that, and a physical. They told me I needed a reds there, and he had something else. And they told us, now, when we get ready for you, we'll call you. Don't call us, don't write us. See, well, you know, I thought we wanted to go right then. We thought we did, but what we didn't realize then is the military had no facilities. Anyway, they told us we would be in the U.S. Army Air Force, and later on they let us know and they sent us to flight school. So soon after that, then the draft was getting closer. We were all the same age, it was getting closer. We wanted to be in the military, but we didn't want to be drafted. Well, many of our other boys, they were looking for, some of them tried to join, couldn't because there was no facilities. So Johnny and I were trying to figure out what to do. We contacted the Naval, he did, down in New Orleans.